Welcome to the Homeschool Show from North Carolinians for Home Education. Our goal is to help you homeschool with confidence and joy. I'm your host, Matthew McDill, and we have once again as our co-host, Rhonda Marshall. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Well, on to our second episode
That's
of
right.
season two.
2.
Okay, homeschool news. We're going to look at a survey asking for people's views on parental rights. And in Homeschool Conversations, Matthew talks with Dr. Kathy Koch, right, from Celebrate Kids. And then T. Essence also talks with an experienced Hispanic homeschool mom who deals with the challenges of working and being a single parent. Mm-hmm. That'll be really a good one. And then finally, our homeschool tip of the week, we're going to give you some practical tips on how to start the new school year.
That's right. And you're going to give us those.
I am going
That'll
to
be
give them.
wonderful.
That's awesome.
Okay, let's start with homeschool news and this survey from the Parental Rights Foundation. They were working with Heart and Mind Strategies, and they asked the following question to a national audience. In general, parents have the constitutional right to make decisions for their children without government interference unless there is proof of abuse or neglect. Do you agree or disagree with this view of parental rights? So that was the question they used for their survey. What would you say?
I would say yes.
Yes. Okay,
Yes,
you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Well, the results of this survey are most everyone agrees with you, Rhonda.
That's good to know.
Overall, 83% of Americans agree with the statement above, and 51% strongly agree, according to the survey. Only 10% disagree, and just 3% strongly disagree. 6% are not sure. So that's a big agreement, you know. Now, the rest of the surveys, they break that down into party affiliation and things like that. So among Republicans, 90% support the statement, with 64 strongly supportive. Among Democrats, 83% support, with 44% strongly supporting. And among independents, 78% support, with 47 strongly supportive. It's still just very
positive on all, depending whatever political stripe you are.
Yeah, right across the board there. So Trump voters, what it looked like was 91% agree, 65 strongly agree. Biden voters, 84% agree, 44 strongly agree. Also, they did this across different ethnicities. So whites agree 85%, 53% strongly agree. Blacks agree 57%, Asians 76%, Hispanics 85%. So again, there's a little bit of difference, but for the most part, even all the different ethnicities are in agreement. So support is strong across additional demographics surveyed as well, including education, religion, age, employment status, household income, and religion. So here's the conclusion. Americans overwhelmingly agree that parents have the right to make decisions for their children, says Bruce Blakeman, Senior Vice President at Heart and Mind Strategies, who conducted the survey. It's about as close to unanimity as you can get on an issue with Americans. These results show that any candidate who opposes parents' rights does so at their own peril.
And we've seen that happen.
That's right.
In recent politics. So,
this article actually mentioned Virginia, especially where the governor won because he was supporting the parents' role in education.
That's exactly right.
And the reason that it's so important to us is because the freedom for parents to be able to choose education, their educational choice, such as homeschooling, and have the ability to determine, what do I want to teach my kids?
Exactly.
You know, the scope and sequence of their education, which is the North Carolina law language of what parents are free to do, that is built on the assumption and foundation of parental rights. And people who are opposed to that tend toward more of a statist viewpoint, which is, well, it's the government's responsibility. It's the government's right to educate children. And so we are in agreement with this and supportive of the fact that that is the parent's responsibility.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, let's move on to Homeschool Conversations. At our Thrive Conference this year, Matthew sat down with Dr. Kathy Cook from Celebrate Kids, and they talked about how parenting and homeschooling isn't just about the kids growing. Parents have to grow a lot as well, right?
That's right.
So let's take a look.
All right, we're here at the 2022 Thrive Homeschool Conference, and we are especially privileged and happy to have Dr. Kathy Cook with Celebrate Kids, and she's one of our featured speakers. And we were just chatting, a lot of ministry going on, you said?
A lot of tears.
A lot of tears.
Parents come in thinking it's going to be about their kids, and it ends up being about them, which I think is good. I mean, I think that empowers change. But I think people have been blindsided by what the Holy Spirit maybe wanted to do here. It's very exciting to see.
So what are some of the nerves that seem to be some of the common things? Can you share?
Well, I was just talking, Matthew, about how important it is that kids know who they are and that they have a positive perspective about their present and their future, that they have, true answers to questions like, who am I and why am I this way? And I commented to the parents, some of you probably didn't know when you were young. And you may still be questioning today. And there were a lot of tears because not everybody who homeschools was raised well,
Right,
and they might have had a, potentially a negative upbringing or a lot of questions about, why are they the way they are. So I think that was a really important insight because if parents are not comfortable in their own skin and if parents do not believe that the Creator was good when He made them, then they're passing that negativity on potentially to their children, which, again, I don't blame them or shame them. It is what it is. But we can do a U-turn and change around.
And so did you kind of already imply there the answer, the hope, which is to accept the way the Lord has made you?
Yeah, absolutely. Told part of my story that, I was tall and didn't want to be tall. I'm 6'1", I'm not a giant, but I am tall. And it was to my advantage. I can put in airplanes, I can put my suitcases up there with no trouble in the overhead bins. And I'm seated on a stool when I speak because of my bad foot and my bad back, but everyone can see me because I'm 6'1". If I was short, I could be a speaker, but you'd be like, where'd that lady go? So I told part of my story to help them see that, and I think it was effective. So created, I shared the emphasis of the verb created. We were created. We were created by an intentional, good, strategic, personal God who knew what He was doing.
So what about one other particular nerve or reaction that for parents or?
Wow. Well, they're talking about the smarts is always effective, as you know, that we're smart in 8 different ways, and so are our kids. And, there are parents who have questioned whether or not their children are smart, and they're thinking, I'm not doing this well because my kid is still not succeeding as a speller or math is still hard. Well, no, you're probably teaching really, really well, but maybe it's still really, really hard because of the way that your child was created by God, and that's okay. So you find freedom in that, and you find a new workaround, a new way to maybe educate so that they're more successful.
That's great. Well, we're so glad you're here, and I know I've heard a lot of great feedback. So how can others find your ministry and your books and what you're doing?
Oh, thanks, Matthew. So celebratekids.com would be our website, and we are on Facebook and social media, Instagram, Facebook, just like you are. We have an email newsletter that we send out on Fridays that we would love people to subscribe to. It's short, but it's a way to kind of stay connected, and that you can find at celebratekids.com. We have a podcast as you do, Celebrate Kids with Dr. Kathy, and that would be really cool to get people engaged with that as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. Appreciate it.
All right. All right. Such a great point about helping children understand who they are and how God made them. And of course, as she was saying, parents are also processing. We learn a lot when we're teaching our kids.
We really do. And we learn a lot about ourselves.
Yeah. And especially when we weren't homeschooled or we're trying to teach things that we weren't taught. We're thinking, well, how am I supposed to teach?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. You have to figure it out. But you can.
And we have the tools to do it. And, but I was just reminded, just last night we had a group of students, high school students, to our home. And we just hung out and had discussion. And one of the questions we were talking about was, how do we know what God wants us to do with our lives? And as parents, we want to prepare our kids for that question so that they would understand, how do I know what God wants us to do? And one of the points that we made was, how did He make you? That's one of the ways you discover. He gave each of us a different personality and a different temperament. if we're Christians, he gave us a spiritual gift.
That's right.
We've developed certain skills and experiences, and we look at, who am I? How did God make me? Because he designed us a certain way to do what he made us to do. So I love that she mentioned that, and I think it's a great reminder for us as parents that that's part of our job, is to observe our kids and to help them discover who they are and how God made them.
So important. Very important.
Yep.
Well, also at the Thrive Conference, T-Essence talked with an experienced Hispanic mom who not only is homeschooling, but she is a single parent and she's working. So lots of challenges. So I can't wait to hear what she has to say.
Right.
Well, thank you for sitting with me, Adriana. So we're here at the Thrive Homeschool Conference 2022. I want to know, how long have you been homeschooling and what made you come to the conference this year?
So I homeschooled my oldest, who is in college now,
Okay.
6th and 7th grade,
Okay.
and we really enjoyed 6th grade. 7th grade was not that great. She begged to go back to school. She's a social butterfly, so she needed it.
Okay.
Now, 6 years later, I started homeschooling halfway through 6th grade for my youngest.
Okay.
Kind of was in the aftermath of COVID.
Okay.
She did online schooling, public school for a little bit, and halfway through the year, she was like, I don't want to go back.
Yes. Okay.
So I reopened my school and started homeschooling again. And we did that by ourselves for a little bit, well, for the rest of that year. And then 7th grade, we joined the co-op.
Okay.
And we gather around with, other homeschoolers in the community. That's how I found out about the Thrive Conference. So this is the first
Okay.
time I come out.
Awesome. Okay.
And we were really excited because it's called Thrive. So
Yes. Want to thrive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So were there any particular workshops that drew you that you're like, I've got to hear that? And if so, why?
Well, I am going into, she's going into 8th grade, so
Yes.
I'm going into
Yes.
homeschooling 8th grade.
Yes.
And I wanted to prepare for high school and beyond.
Yes.
Like, how do I prepare her for that? So those drew me in. Also, just finding out different ways to homeschool, kind of combining things
Yes.
between online and co-ops and myself. I work also, so trying to homeschool
Yes.
and work, trying to homeschool as a single parent,
Yes.
trying to homeschool as, a Hispanic family
Yes.
in the United States, trying
Yes.
to keep some of our culture, trying to integrate, take the best from every side.
Absolutely.
So all
It's
those
a lot.
reasons.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we have this conference is because when you think about all the stuff you're trying to do, it's like there's no way, and then you come to a place like this and you're like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
hope. Yes,
It's definitely encouraging.
Yes.
Definitely encouraging.
Awesome, that's awesome. Something you mentioned about being a Hispanic family here and trying to keep your culture. So one of the things we've been doing this year is multicultural efforts. Myself and Luz Velasquez are multicultural liaisons, and I know you got to talk with Luz. So what is your perspective on us doing that and bringing more Spanish in, and how important you think that may or may not be?
Well, I think it's very important. I think there are a lot of Hispanic families that maybe are too shy to come out or too shy to even begin to try to homeschool in a foreign country.
Absolutely.
Where things are different than they learn them.
Yes.
So it can be very intimidating. I love that that's kind of the movement to start
Yes.
integrating because there is a lot of value in homeschooling.
Absolutely.
And it can help many, many families. We just have to kind of get the word out there. So
Yes.
I'm really excited about it. I've been friends with Luz for a couple of years already,
Oh,
so
awesome.
I really enjoy her and her energy.
Yes.
and I know she's very dedicated
Yes.
to spreading the word and getting people more engaged with
Yes.
it. So I think it's something that's valuable for every culture. And as a Hispanic family, then, I really appreciate incorporating the Hispanic culture into homeschooling.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. So, for you, would you recommend NCHE and the Thrive Conference to other homeschoolers?
Absolutely. I would.
Yes.
Yes, I would. I'm going to tell everybody, I'm like, you should have been there. Come next year. It's definitely worth the trip, taking that time, creating a little distance between your routine at home
Yes.
and coming in kind of feeding yourself
Yes.
so that you can plan ahead for the following year. I think the timing is great
Yes.
because it's a long weekend anyway.
Yeah.
So it worked out really awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for asking me to talk.
Okay.
All right, such a great conversation. Tiensis did a great job.
She did do a great
doing
job.
the interview there. So we have the website, nchu.com/multicultural homeschooling. So they were able to talk about the fact that we've been especially reaching out to Black homeschool families and Hispanic homeschool families. We're also wanting to reach Asian and many other types of ethnicities or cultural backgrounds.
Yes.
So if you find yourself in any particular situation and there's a way that we can help you, you can check out that website, nchu.com, multicultural homeschooling. And we'd love for you to get in contact with Tiesins and Luz and find out how we can serve you.
Yeah, it's so needed in those communities to feel
right.
supported and welcomed. Yeah, and having their own language.
And Rhonda is our community relations director. She helps all of our liaisons, all the regional liaisons and our multicultural liaisons. And so Rhonda's also available, right?
Yeah.
to get you
so.
connected, to get you connected to the people that you need to get connected to. That's one of our goals, is to get you connected with others.
Absolutely.
All right, we are going to go to Homeschool Tip of the Week. Now, last week, we talked a little bit about getting ready for the new year. Now, some people don't follow the normal schedule, right?
Right?
But most people do.
Yeah, a lot of people
I'd
do.
say more than
Right.
half follow the regular semesters or the year long. So that means we're coming up in August into September and have to get things ready.
Get ready.
So what are we supposed to do?
Let's talk about it. So these are just some tips that I have learned over the years that have helped me in the start of my school year. And this first one is the most important one. It's keep first things first. And when I say that, I mean keep relationships before you're homeschooling, you're doing, you're working.
That's
so
important.
your relationship with the Lord, your relationship with your husband, your relationship with your kids, and then move into your mothering and homeschooling. But so often we get those mixed up, or at
Yep.
least I certainly did.
For sure.
So keep first things first. And Matthew talked about this last week, some kind of have a vision. But I always say, remember your why. Remember why you're doing this. And even write it down. Put it someplace if you need to as a reminder, because there will be hard days and you'll
sure.
need that. And another thing is you need to keep the right perspective or have the right expectations. Go into it knowing that there's going to be some hard.
That's right.
Expecting all sunshine and roses is not realistic. But just going in that it's going to be okay. There will be some challenges.
There will
but
be tears.
There will
and
be
frustrations.
There will.
And I'm not doing that.
That's right. Yeah, sometimes you might cry when your husband gets home or your spouse gets home. But having those right expectations and just remembering your why during those hard days is so important. Define your goals. Matthew talked about this last week too a little bit. But define your goals and even ask your kids what are their goals. You can have academic goals. You can have spiritual goals, physical goals. You know, like your 3-year-old, I want them to be potty trained, or I want my 5-year-old to learn to tie his shoe. Simple things like that. But just have those goals, the main things that you're going to be focusing on, so you can measure up against it. And remember that this is a full-time job, that there will have some things to have to go on the back burner during this season of your life while you're homeschooling. But have some big rocks, what I call big rocks in your homeschool day, the non-negotiable things that you're going to get done. And especially if you're type A or perfectionistic, you're going to have to let some things go. Things will not be perfect while at your house, while everyone's there. That's just the way it is. So start letting go now. But I also want to give you some practical suggestions that if you implement before starting school will give you a leg up on maintaining your schooling and everything.
Okay.
So one thing that was a big rock in mine was clean the kitchen. Sometimes my husband cleaned the kitchen, or the kids clean the kitchen. But that way in the morning, it's a fresh slate. You begin the day with not a ton of dishes. That sounds silly or simple, but
So when you say rock, you're saying one of those big things
that we're
That
going
always
to
gets
get
done?
is just make sure that
a priority,
happens
okay.
because we want to have that.
Start the day clean.
Start the day clean.
Nice.
And also have areas or zones in your house where you can assign them to a child that then have a 5 or 10 minute cleanup several times a day, just in those zones. And you can rotate them around, but it's helpful if they have some responsibility.
So I think we have enough time for me to ask you a little question.
Okay.
Because we've done this zone thing, and it works great.
Mm-hmm.
But have you ever had this happen?
Oh,
Where a kid won't clean something up because they're like, that's not my room. That's not my zone. And I'm like, okay, we're
no.
losing. We're losing something else here. Just being helpful or
you
cleaning
might
up
wanna-
after yourself. Like, that's not my room.
Like, well, your stuff in the other room is still your
So
responsibility.
that's come up with us anyway.
That is so funny. Yeah, I haven't had that happen, but that's an interesting. I can imagine some of my very strong-willed kids trying
Yeah.
to pull that one over on me. Also, take the time to do some deep cleaning over the summer. Maybe, and again, enlist your kids, enlist your spouse, declutter, streamline as many things as you can, simplify, put some organizational systems in place for like laundry. Like maybe you have older kids and you give them a laundry day. That's their day to get their laundry done. Or maybe you're doing laundry for everyone, but you have like maybe just do a load once per day. From start to finish, meaning put it up. Otherwise, have you ever had the laundry pile on the couch or on the bed?
Stays there a while.
Yes,
yeah.
it can stay there. So just some system in place so you can get those things done. Put some system in place about meals, cleaning, your homeschool storage. Look through, see how you can organize that. But like for meals, you could have meatless Mondays or Taco Tuesdays or Italian on Wednesdays or crock pot on Thursdays. If you have a structure like that, then it's easier for you to pop in recipes and figure out what you're going to do. And man, use the crock pot, use the Instant Pot. Even now, freeze some meals. Even as simple as cooking double dinners for the next, a couple times for the next few weeks. Then you can pop those in the freezer and keep those for those days where you're like, food, I don't know about what to do about
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
I'm so jealous because, now we don't homeschool anymore because we graduated all ours. But grocery pickup, can we talk about that? Like, they didn't have that in my day.
Oh, you had to go to the
I
store?
had to go to the store with all the
gotta be
kids.
kidding me.
Yeah, that's right. So utilize that grocery pickup, man. And also look for some meal plans. The one I know I've used before is called e-meals. And they have all different kinds of, it can just be home-cooked meals, all the way from gluten-free to vegan, vegetarian, all that kind of stuff. But the beauty of it is it has recipes for each evening. It has the ingredient list, and you can put it in your cart, like your Walmart grocery shopping cart.
And then
So
they'll
it's
bring it to you.
easy, and then they can bring it to you. It's awesome.
Kind of with that is Dana, my wife, just finds meal planning helpful, which is it's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's basically like I don't need to try to start thinking about it. It's 4:00,
Right.
and then I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to? But
Having a
it's
plan.
planned.
If you have a
I already
plan,
figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Taking that time to do that even over the summer will really help you. And I'm just going to be honest here. There was times at our house where we had breakfast for dinner, whether that be eggs
All
or
the time at our
cereal
house.
or
Yeah.
waffles or something, just because things didn't go what they
That's
went.
right.
Look around your house this summer and do what I call attacking the pain points. What is getting to you the most? Like for me, a lot of times I had my desk like knee high and stuff. So whatever is bugging you, take care of it before you start homeschooling so you don't have to deal with that day in and day out. Have a morning routine. Don't be by the clock, I suggest, because I was drill sergeant mommy. I've talked about that on here before, but not by the hour. But just a regular routine that you can do. Prioritize getting in God's Word each day. Look at physical activities, maybe going for a walk. You can pray, just have a little time. Get up before your kids get up. That's huge for me. Talk about what God's doing and teaching you at breakfast or throughout the day. Do subjects together whenever you possibly can. So Bible, literature, or reading aloud, history, science, those things that you can do together. projects then after, and then you can talk about it at dinner. And then afterwards, they can do their individual subjects like math and language arts. Having a plan like that is helpful, I found, especially if you have a number of kids. And try to relax. Enjoy the last bit of summer for sure. Try to get some things in place, but just realize we won't do everything perfectly. We all mess up. Like you were talking about earlier, but point them to God, and He will finish what He began in you. And just remember, you have one shot with your life. Invest in your kids. Model, and I think this is really important, model and bless your marriage. Show your children what a marriage looks like, because moms, we can get too focused on just the kids. So it's really important to do that. Love your families well. It really does go by quick. But focus on relationship and discipleship and keeping first things first, and the Lord will bring it all into place for you.
That's
I really
great.
feel confident. Yeah, I'm
Very
excited for
encouraging.
people.
It helps people to sit down and think about the future and figure out what it's going to look like, and that's helpful. Thanks.
Thanks.
Good. Well, we appreciate you joining us again this week. We would love to hear from you. You can email us at thehomeschoolshow@nche.com. You can also find out about other ways of listening to the show on YouTube or on a podcast, as well as on the radio here. And you can go to the Homeschool Show at nche.com/the Homeschool Show and find out more about that. We'd also love some more homeschool reality moment videos.
Yes, send them in, please.
There's a link on the main page there where you can upload the videos, and so you can check that out as well. We are so glad you've been with us, and until next week, homeschool with confidence and joy.